Billy here. It's time is it? It's almost 6 o'clock. It's a little before 6 o'clock Moscow time. I'm still in Moscow. I know my last video was back in Sevastopol, but that's just one I had in the pot. I need to clean my phone out and free up some space. So I just threw that in there because it's a fairly decent one. Anyway, on the internets last night, I saw where the Ukrainians are claiming that the Russian rebels bombed a school. Really? Well, the Ukrainians have been doing that for 7 years now, but it's very difficult to get any information on it. You don't hear about it. It all gets scrubbed. They've been bombing kindergartens and hospitals all along, but it just doesn't get into the mainstream media. Well, we don't really know who did that. It's he said, she said, or whatever. The OSCE, or whatever they are, the monitoring people always are very neutral about it. You know, well, somebody fired a weapon into this area. That's all they'll do. They fudge things and lied about things in Serbia back during the Yugoslav war. They got caught lying about things. That's the international monitoring groups. They've all been captured by NATO hacks. And I'll find that and put a link to that where they got caught lying, you know, before. Anyway, they supposedly all left the Donbass. Last I heard, they showed pictures of them leaving because they're scared and Russia's going to invade. But then all of a sudden they're back there. And the news story is, well, look at this. I'm holding my camera with my hands because I want to turn it around and show you this because I don't have the skills to put videos in. You see that? Does that look normal to you? I don't know. You probably don't have a lot of experience with rockets coming through brick walls. I do. I'm not part of an international monitoring group, but I was in Iraq for 2 years, and I was in Afghanistan for 4 years, and I saw lots of buildings that have been penetrated by all kinds of things. RPGs, you know. Sometimes they'll go all the way through. They'll go right through a Humvee. A lot of times right through the armored glass. I've seen, 107s, they use those a lot. Self-propelled, recoilless rifle, self-propelled artillery pieces. I've seen stuff go through mud brick, which wasn't fired. This is fired brick. This is a typical old Soviet building. This is probably post and beam concrete with fired brick infill. Really thick. See how it knocked the bricks out nice and neat? It looks almost like a battering ram right through here. And you notice there's no scorch marks. Even if the shell didn't go off, there'd be scorch marks from the rocket. Always scorch marks from what I've seen. I don't know what this is. It just doesn't look right. There's a lot of things that don't look right. And there's experts that are working on it right now, and they've already located where this place is because there's photographs of the inside of schools and videos. Oh, look at this. This is an old one. This is Syria, where they were saying that Bashar al-Assad and his army have barrel bombs. Syria's very well-equipped army. They don't need to make bombs out of propane cans, and they didn't. That's laying on a bed with some debris from the ceiling and window. Like, oh, that's behind a paywall, too. You can only look at it for a few seconds. But you can screenshot that. It's real hard to find this stuff. It was all over. Images of barrel bombs everywhere, laying in people's yards and laying in people's beds. And now you can't hardly find the images because they don't want people looking at them too close. This one's behind a paywall on, what is this, a Washington Post. Yeah, I'm not paying them anything for their freaking images. All this stuff used to be free. A lot of it disappears. A lot of it goes behind paywalls. But you need to forensically look at this stuff. It's not that difficult. You don't have to be a freaking rocket scientist. And you've got intuition. Something doesn't smell right. It doesn't look right. You see a nice, neat, clean hole punched through a wall. There's no hole on the other side. There's nothing laying there. Okay. This actually happened to my coworker, and I went and looked immediately after it happened and heard his firsthand description of it. He's sitting in a container. They made buildings out of containers in Afghanistan, a shipping container that is finished inside with plywood walls and insulation. He's sitting there talking on the phone to his girlfriend or something. He's from Louisiana. And he said, well, I heard the awfulest racket, and I felt something. I looked down, and there's this little green football rolling around between my legs and smoke coming off of it. Well, I got the hell out of there. He's a great guy. He's way down in Louisiana. That's how he talked. Well, went and looked, and it was RPG. It went through a hardened Corten shipping container that they used for storage in the mailroom. It went through the door and shattered it, because those are tempered doors, and it bounced off the back wall, and then it went through the side wall, and then it went into the mailroom through a plywood wall, and it bounced off another plywood wall, and then it went 90 degrees and bounced off another plywood wall, and then it went through the third plywood wall, and then it went through another shipping container, through the side wall, and then through the plywood. Finally ran out of steam and rolled around between my friend's feet while he's sitting at the desk, and it didn't go off. Things get weird at high velocity. I guess it depends on whether it was tumbling, obviously, and depending on what orientation it was in, was whether it's going to bounce off a plywood wall or go through a steel wall. It'd bounce off plywood and then go through steel. Doesn't make any sense. But there were some scorch marks on stuff. Anyway, this just looks fishy. And they're using it for propaganda. First they come out saying that Russia did it, and then they said the Russian rebels did it, and now they backed off and says, we don't know who did it. And now the story is, let me go back to it. Now the headline, this is Reuters. Oh, it's MSN. Okay, this came out in Reuters, and they were saying the Russian rebels bombed a school. And they had Ukrainian inspectors on one of the videos. And I got to look and see if that's been scrubbed. It's easy to find if it hadn't been. But this is, the new headline is, Russia is looking for an excuse. So the Russians are showing this school being bombed, as they have been for 7 years. This isn't the first. There's been lots of them. And they're showing this in the MSN headline is, Russia looking for excuse to invade Ukraine. Really? That's what we're supposed to take away from this. I mean, if they're bombing schools, well, that's just Russia looking for an excuse. Really? You really got to do somersaults with your mind, and most Americans are conditioned to do so. You've been brought up since childhood watching TV shows with really implausible, ridiculous, cartoonish plots, and evidence is just doesn't even add up. But you sit there and you become a part of the narrative. You suspend your disbelief. You suspend your critical thought. You've been trained to do that since childhood. And now you're watching the news. And you do it to the news, too. Don't close your eyes and open your mouth and let them shovel whatever they want in here. I mean, this is ridiculous on its face. Every aspect. This is a big old rotten onion. Layers and layers and layers of lies and corruption. Russia's looking for an excuse to invade Ukraine. Is that what we would say if... Well, the first time this story is issued, Russia bombed a school. Russia bombed a school, and then become the Russian rebels bombed a school. They're just out of control. And now it's Russia's looking for an excuse. I guess we're going to find out Ukrainians did this. It doesn't even look like a rocket to me. The way this, from this angle, from what I'm looking at, it doesn't look like one at all. It almost looks like a wrecking ball hit the side of this building, or some sort of ram. I'm no expert. I don't claim to be one, but I have seen an awful lot of stuff like this before. I spent days on the Ba'ath Party headquarters roof. You know where they showed you the invasion of Iraq? They showed you that smart bomb going down that vent from the roof. Yeah, I spent several weeks just kind of hanging out on a little garden table we had set up there, smoking cigars. because I was supposed to be there as a crane operator and they didn't have a crane, and you know, I had to be there and get money for KBR, but there wasn't anything for me to do, so they wanted me out of sight. So I stood up there with the guy that was there. There's a corporal up there, a corporal. I remember his name too. I'm not going to say it. He's a nice guy, young guy. The poor bastard was up there guarding the antenna farm, so he didn't have much to do either. They had a lot of antennas they put on the roofs, and we just sit up there and read books and talk and smoke cigars and get paid for it. Sweet, right? Not really. But anyway, I did a close examination of that building and the holes in it and how they went through and what they did. And I got pictures. I'm not calling myself an expert, but there's something. I smell a rat here. This doesn't look right. And as I explained with the RPG, you know, these missiles do all kinds of weird things. I call them missiles. It's a generic word for some projectile that's fired. They tumble, they bounce off one thing, and they go through another that's harder than the thing they bounced off. Nah, it doesn't make any sense, but I don't know. The propellant's usually still going. Even if the rocket's burned out and the damn thing doesn't explode, they're hot. I mean, they're really hot. They're smoking by the time they get to their destination. I don't see anything here to indicate any of that. This looks like it was just done with somebody had a pole tied to a truck or a winch truck and ran into the wall. Anyway, we'll get more information on it, and I might be wrong, but you know, just a preliminary cynical look at it. I'd like to encourage people to be cynical and think. Anyway, this is Uncle Billy in Moscow analyzing the shit pipe of the web. I just want to encourage you to think about these things. We'll get into this later. I got things to do today, but I'll see you around. Bye.